This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Statutory declaration case of former MP Horace Daly put off. Former Member of Parliament Horace Daly, who was summoned to court for failing to file his statutory declaration, had his case put off to July 15 because he is ill. The case was mentioned today in the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court. Attorney-at-law Charles Ganga Singh, who is representing Daly, apologized to the court for his absence. Ganga Singh, in applying for an adjournment, told the court that Daly's absence was due to the fact that he was sick. Daly was served with a summons in March for breaching the Integrity Commission Act. He is accused of failing to file his statutory declaration for the period 2020 to 2021. Security guard wounded following gun attack in St. Anne. The St. Anne police are searching for gunmen who carried out an attack at a property on Monday night, which left a security guard battling for life. It's reported that about 11:40 p.m., two security guards were at the property in Old Fort Bay in Mammy Bay when they were attacked by the gunmen. The gunmen shot up the security post, leaving one of the guards with bullet wounds while the other escaped injury. 2 dead in Claremont crash. 2 people are dead and 3 others injured following a motor vehicle accident along the Osborne Store Main Road in Claremont on Tuesday afternoon. Preliminary reports reaching the news are that 2 vehicles were traveling in opposite directions, one allegedly to the airport, when the incident occurred. 5 people were rushed to the hospital, where 2 of them were pronounced dead and 3 others admitted in serious condition. It is alleged that a foreign national was among the deceased. Parliament to receive Occupational Safety and Health Bill this legislative year, says Samuda. Labour and the Social Security Minister Carl Samuda is promising that the long-awaited Occupational Safety and Health Bill will be brought to Parliament for passage this legislative year. Mr. Samuda, making his contribution to the sectorial debate on Tuesday, noted that the bill had gone through extensive review by a joint select committee of Parliament, and the recommended changes had been taken into account for inclusion in the statute. The Occupational Safety and Health Bill, aimed at enhancing workplace safety and health, has been the subject of deliberations from the 1990s. The delay in its passage drawing strong criticisms from various stakeholders over the ensuing decades. When passed, it will replace the very old Factories Act. Jamaican killed in South London stabbing. 3 women and a man were all found stabbed to death in London Monday morning. A grandmother, Dollet Hill, originally from License in St. Thomas, Jamaica, has been named as one of the 4 people killed in Bermondsey on Monday. The Mirror understands that Hill, who was in her 60s, and the other victims were 3 generations of the same family. The Metropolitan Police say a man in his late 20s, known to the victims, has been arrested on suspicion of murder after the dreadful discovery. Police were called at roughly 1:40 a.m. to reports of a disturbance at a home in South Bermondsey, with one witness claiming a group of armed officers ran into the home. Inside, police found 4 people believed to have been stabbed to death, the Met said. Another witness claimed that they saw 4 people lying on the street receiving CPR. The 3 female victims were in their 30s, 40s, and 60s, and the man was in his 60s. People claiming to be family members of those killed arrived at the scene shortly before noon. Despite the efforts of emergency services, all 4 people were pronounced dead at the scene, Scotland Yard said in a statement. Speaking from the scene this afternoon, Metropolitan Police Commander Colin Wingrove said, in the early hours of this morning, following a call from neighbors, officers forced the entry into a house. Inside the house, they made a dreadful discovery of 4 people who had been stabbed. All 4 people were sadly announced dead at the scene. A man in his late 20s was arrested at the address on suspicion of murder, and he is currently in custody. At this early stage, we are not looking for any other person. We believe all those involved may have been known to each other. I want to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of all those concerned. This is a deeply shocking incident, and we will do everything we can to provide support to everyone affected at this difficult time. A larger police presence remained at the scene today, where a barrier has been erected to block the road and several forensic tents are in place. An alleged witness has told of seeing police jump out of their cars with rifles after 7 or 8 police cars as well as 3 ambulances arrived at the scene. There were 7 or 8 police cars and 3 ambulances, said the neighbor. Police jumped out with rifles. We heard them go in, then all of a sudden it just went silent for a little while. Then we saw the forensics people go in. 4 body bags were loaded into a private ambulance following the discovery of the bodies. They were brought to the silver van from behind the metal fence blocking off the crime scene, where forensic officers are continuing their investigations. The Met have said that officers are in the process of contacting next of kin and that post-mortem examinations will be arranged soon. One man told the Mirror what his son, 15, saw in the early hours of Monday. He could see 4 police getting out of a 4x4 fully armed with machine guns, the dad explained. He thought they had shot someone and they were given treatment for that by an ambulance. But obviously this morning we hear they've been stabbed. He was woken up by the police arriving and looked out the window, and in his tired state saw 4 people were lying in the street outside getting CPR. I don't know exactly if that's how it happened. A neighbor who didn't want to be named said, I was watching telly when about 1:30 in the morning I heard a woman screaming for about 5 minutes. It was awful, but when I heard the police, the helicopter, the ambulances, I knew it was really serious. I saw about 8 or 9 police cars, all were armed, come out and surround the area. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder and taken to a South London police station where he remains in custody. A spokesperson for London Ambulance Service said 4 people died at the scene and that 1 man was taken to hospital as a priority. They would not confirm whether the person hospitalized was the same one as the man arrested, but did say only 5 people were found in the house. Water restrictions to continue in some sections of corporate area. Despite improved levels at the corporate area's 2 main catchment facilities, the National Water Commission says supply restrictions will continue in a number of communities. Inflows at the facilities have increased over the last few days following heavy rainfall. The Mona Reservoir is now at 76.3% of capacity and the Hermitage Dam 90.3%. Andrew Cannon, Corporate Communication Manager at the NWC, says the restrictions will be maintained in an effort to be proactive, and since there is no certainty, the rains will continue.
Because we are not quite certain as to whether or not these rains are going to continue, and we really have to be proactive. So this is the time to still conserve, and persons must not waste water. Also, we have to stress that even though we are seeing an uptick in the levels, one must not only look at inflows, one must look at outflows as well, because we have to meet the demand for water. So even though we are seeing this uptick, and it is good, it is positive, we will still maintain the restriction levels.
Security forces conducting major operation in several western parishes. Members of the narcotics police and the military are carrying out major operations in St. James, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland in search of suspects involved in the illicit drug trade. On Tuesday afternoon, the cops seized 24 pounds of cocaine in a vehicle which was intercepted near a property in Coral Gardens, St. James. The security forces raided the property and seized a larger quantity of U.S. and Canadian currency. 1 suspect has been taken into custody. A senior commander told the news that the cocaine has a street value of US $550,000. The operations, which began at 4 o'clock Tuesday morning, are still in progress. Agriculture Ministry taking steps to reduce Jamaica's food import bill. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries will be pursuing initiatives aimed at enhancing Jamaica's food security and reducing the country's annual food import bill. Agriculture Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says Jamaica is working to slash the food import bill by 25% over the next 3 years. Speaking Tuesday at the Agriculture Climate Resilience opening ceremony, Mr. Charles said Jamaica would be expanding its poultry market and focusing on priority crops. This year, we have been able to move onion production from 21% before to now 40%, he said, noting the almost 100% increase. He added that the government is on its way to a target of 60% by next year. However, Mr. Charles said climate change might negatively impact the ministry's initiatives as it can lead to a proliferation of new pests and diseases, increase the risk of transboundary movement of these things into our country, among several other issues. For this reason, he suggested Jamaica would have to extend its partnerships with the World Bank, Food and Agriculture Organization, and other multi-stakeholder partnerships to manage and mitigate against those risks.
Expanding the poultry market, focusing on our priority crops. This year we have been able to move onion production from 21% before to now 40%. Now for those of you who are the mathematical brains, 20 to 40. Nobody? No? Up 19%. But that's also almost like 100% increase. You're doubling. And listen, if we're to talk about next year, where we're going? 60. And we're on the way. Climate change can lead to a proliferation of new pests and diseases, increased risk of transboundary movement of these things into our country, and several other issues. And that is why it's critical for us to extend our international partnerships. We are working with agencies like the World Bank, like FAO, and other multi-stakeholder partnerships to make sure that we manage and mitigate against those risks.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.